Hey guys, it's Near here. Today I'm going to show you the best and optimal controller or gamepad settings for beginners. I will also explain each setting, what they do, and how you can adjust it based on your skill level and driving style. So if you want to start playing Assetto Corsa but you don't have a steering wheel, it's completely fine. You can play this game just fine with just a regular Xbox or PlayStation controller. I'd also just like to mention, based on my experience, that I'd prefer the Xbox controllers for racing games in general, as they tend to have better triggers and you will use the trigger buttons for both throttle and braking. But if you're using a PlayStation controller, that's still fine. Still be the same settings, so let's get started. Okay, so once you go to your options settings, just go to controls and you will see this whole window right here. Now, you don't have to focus on this right part. Control bindings, just leave it at default. You only need to focus here in the middle. So starting on the left side, the steer stick. Obviously, the default one would be the left stick, so you steer using your left analog stick. So my settings here for gear up and gear down, shift up and shift down, is basically my X button and A button. For PlayStation, that would be the square button and your X button. Now onto the middle part of the screen, we're going to check the force feedback. So you can see here first is the rumble intensity. This pretty much just means your controller vibration settings. So I have it on 50%, so you can still feel just a bit of vibration when either you're going out of track or you're driving on rough roads. If you increased it, it could be a bit distracting for you. You can also put this to 0% if you don't want any vibrations whatsoever. Now the effects type also depends on your vibration settings. So you have enhanced, legacy, and that's pretty much it. So you just have to put enhanced, don't have to change anything there. So now I'm going to explain to you the advanced settings. So for the first one, we have the dead zone. Now this depends on your analog sticks on your controller. If you're using an old controller, maybe you have a worn out analog stick, or you are experiencing some stick drift. So basically, stick drift is when you're not touching your analog. Basically, you let go of the controller and you can see the analogs moving on its own. So if you have that, you should try increasing the dead zone, depending on how strong the stick drift is. But if you are using a new controller, then you shouldn't bother with this setting and just set it up to 0%. Up next, we have speed sensitivity. I have mine set to 55%, around somewhere in the middle, because it can go up to 100%. So basically, this is how sensitive you're steering depending on how fast you're going. To explain this, we're going to increase this up to 100% so we can see how much it affects driving. Okay, we have our speed sensitivity set to 100. So we're going over 160 kilometers per hour right now. And I have my left analog all the way to the right and it's not really turning. Now that's basically 100% speed sensitivity is. Now if we set the speed sensitivity all the way down to 0%, you should have a much more faster response when turning, but you also can easily go out of control. So we have our speed sensitivity all the way down to 0. So this means you will have much more control when steering, but also it would be much harder to control, especially when turning low corners like that. So this is best to set around in the middle. You can start from 50 and maybe you can just adjust down and just up. So for our next setting is the steer filter. I have mine at 45%. This can also go all the way up to 100% and all the way down to 0. So basically, steer filter is the response of your analog. Now this is almost like the speed sensitivity, but this doesn't really depend on how fast you're going or how slow you're going. So if we have this at 100%, it means it will take longer for the car to turn. However, if we have this set to all the way down to 0%, we will also have the fastest response for turning. If we test it on 0% and I try turning all the way left instantly, and I can instantly go straight to the wall. However, if we turn this to 100%, so when you have your steer filter all the way up to 100%, there will be much lower response time in terms of turning. So let's say I steer all the way to the left and try turning again to the right, it'd be much slower. It'd be much harder to control the car. In my opinion, it's best to have this from 50% or lower. So that's why I have this around 45%. So the next one is the steer speed. You might think that this has something to do with how fast you're steering, but no, this doesn't really do anything when you try to switch your cameras inside the car, and that's basically how fast the animation steering the steering wheel. So the next one is the steer gamma. This one's a bit tricky. This can go all the way up to 4.0 and all the way down to 1. That's pretty much the range. So the middle is 2.5 and that's where I set this up. So basically 1 or the lowest value results to a much smoother but slow turning, especially for slower curves, lighter curves, while the max value, which is 4, results to much faster turning, and it's best for really narrow turns. It's better to have this set up 2.5 and you can just test it out. And the last one is the steer assist. You should just have this at enabled. Okay, now with this setting, I will try and just drive around testing the setting. Just to note that I'm driving in manual. And you could see my input on the visual Xbox controller. Again, there's a much slower turn here. Brake, shift down, and start turning. Remember to not steer or turn while you're throttling up, because you will lose control of your car. Again, we're going for another good lap. Another straight. Brake, shift down. Once turns green. Still good. It's best to just focus when to brake. So once it's red, you should start braking instantly. Then start turning again when the driving line starts turning green. Again, showing you a straight, you can go really fast, brake, then turn again. Always maximize the space. Can be out of control here and there, but as long as you're inside the track, you're good. Again, follow the driving line, slow down. Again, when you're just starting the game, starting with racing games in general, like, it's okay to be slow. Better to be slow than go really fast and just start driving two walls. So that's pretty much it. Like the video, help the video get more traction, get it recommended on YouTube page, and subscribe for more videos, more streams. And that's it for today. Bye bye.